Today, we're going to explore one of the most audacious engineering ideas ever implemented. An airport built in the middle of a giant canyon. Not near the canyon, not on a flat plateau. But it was right in the middle of sheer rock walls where there was virtually no space for construction. In a place where wind is forced through the mountain crevices at extremely high speeds, the rugged terrain makes even building a road a challenge. A place where every meter of land must be created through excavation, reinforcement, and absolute precision control. Before we begin, remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and follow us to discover more incredible engineering feats, mega projects, and nearly impossible construction challenges around the world. Now let's begin the journey of building an airport in the middle of a canyon. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a giant gorge, flanked by rock walls hundreds of meters high, with a raging river flowing below. Landslides can occur at any time. The wind constantly howls through the narrow gaps, and flat ground is almost non-existent. That's where people decided to build a full-fledged airport. Initially, that sounded completely impossible. An airport needs a long runway. A stable foundation is needed, along with space for taxiways, aprons, terminals, radar, fuel, and rescue systems. But in the middle of the canyon, there are almost none of those conditions. No natural flat surface, no open space. The terrain is extremely dangerous, access is limited, and even a small mistake during construction could cause landslides or structural damage. That's why this project isn't simply about building an airport. It's about completely reshaping the canyon's landscape. The first phase began with surveying. Engineers brought in geological radar, drones, laser equipment, and 3D mapping systems. Their first task was to understand the canyon. They studied the rock structure, fractures, landslide risks, water flow, wind direction, and the load-bearing capacity of the underlying bedrock. They needed to know which parts of the canyon were stable enough to withstand the weight of aircraft, and which parts might collapse under construction pressure. This phase may seem quiet, but it is one of the most important parts of the entire project. Because without a thorough understanding of the terrain, an airport will never be safe. Engineers began marking the locations of the future runway, terminal area, approach roads, and areas where massive retaining walls needed to be constructed. They also calculated the amount of rock that needed to be removed and the amount of material required to create the airport's foundation in the canyon. The goal is simple, yet incredibly difficult, to create a flat platform where there is virtually no room for ground to exist. Then the real transformation process begins. Heavy drilling machines, excavators, trucks, rock drilling rigs, cranes, and blasting crews began moving into the canyon. Temporary access roads were built along the rocky slopes, some sections having to be suspended directly along the cliff face. From that point on, the entire canyon became a giant construction site with deep boreholes drilled into the rock face. Controlled explosions shattered massive blocks of rock, with excavators continuously removing the debris. Trucks transport rocks to areas that need leveling. Some sections of the canyon had to be filled in to create a level surface, while others had to be cut away to expand the space. Each explosion was calculated with extreme precision. Blasting too much rock on one side could destabilize the entire mountainside. If the backfill soil is not properly compacted, the future runway could crack or collapse. Therefore, the mountain was formed slowly and carefully. Day after day, the shape of the canyon began to change, the sheer cliffs gradually receding. The rugged areas were transformed into massive artificial land platforms. And for the first time, the shape of an airport began to emerge between the stone walls. But creating the site is just the beginning. An airport in the middle of a canyon faces an extremely dangerous enemy: gravity, which threatens to collapse everything. Rocks, soil, water. Even the airport's foundation itself is affected, which is why engineers built a massive earth retaining system around the entire area. These are no ordinary walls. They are massive, reinforced concrete structures anchored deep into the bedrock of the canyon. Large steel cages were erected, and concrete was poured in layers. The rock anchor was drilled dozens of meters deep into the cliff face. Drainage pipes are installed behind the retaining walls to release water pressure. Steel mesh to protect against falling rocks covers many hazardous areas. These structures formed the skeleton that prevented the entire airport from collapsing to the bottom of the canyon. At the same time, the engineering teams continued to stabilize the rock slopes, sprayed concrete, anchor bolts, steel mesh, and drainage channels. All of these were used to lock the terrain together like a giant layer of armor. This is when the project becomes more than just a construction site. It became a battle against the very terrain of the canyon. Next comes the most important part of the entire airport, the runway. Even on flat ground, runway construction has been extremely complex. But deep in the canyon, it becomes a job that demands absolute precision. The runway must be long enough, strong enough, flat enough, and perfectly aligned between the narrow rock walls. If the runway is misaligned, wind being forced through the canyon can destabilize the aircraft during landing. Therefore, engineers had to study the wind flow extremely carefully, and the runway foundation was built in multiple layers. First comes the foundation, then the load-bearing layer. Next comes crushed stone, and finally a finishing layer of concrete or asphalt. Each layer is tested for density, durability, and smoothness. A massive drainage system was built along both sides of the runway because in the canyon, rainwater can run off the cliffs above extremely quickly. If left unchecked, the entire road surface could be destroyed. Guide lights, approach lights, markings, navigation devices, all are installed with extremely high precision. As the runway gradually took shape, the airport terminal also began to rise amidst the stone walls. But this isn't just a place for passengers. It's more like a survival center built in the middle of a canyon. The building had to withstand constant strong winds, vibrations from the rocky terrain, and extremely limited construction space. A massive steel frame is anchored directly to the bedrock, and large impact-resistant glass panels are installed to withstand wind pressure. A modern airport with panoramic views of the valley, clouds, and distant mountain peaks. Beyond its aesthetic appeal, the building houses a complex array of technical networks, backup power, fire protection, communications, baggage handling systems, a fuel depot, and emergency rescue equipment. Because it's located in a canyon, repairing any problems will be much more difficult than at a regular airport. Next is access infrastructure. Engineers had to build roads through rugged terrain. Some sections require overpasses to cross the deep ravines. In other places, tunnels need to be dug through the mountain rock. Guardrails, retaining walls, and rockfall barriers have all been installed along the route. That means the airport wasn't just built in the middle of a canyon, and the entire canyon was redeveloped to serve it. Next is the air traffic control system. Radar, weather stations, communication antennas, and wind sensors are strategically placed. At an airport in the middle of a canyon, the weather is not just background information, it controls all airport operations. Winds can change extremely quickly. Fog can obscure the runway. Falling rocks can appear after heavy rain, and visibility can disappear in just minutes. That's why airports need extremely modern surveillance systems. After years of construction, the final testing phase has finally begun. The runway is load-tested, airport lights are tested at night, and the drainage system is tested with a large flow of water. The rescue vehicle performed an emergency drill and its navigation equipment was calibrated. And finally, the first test aircraft appeared above the canyon. From above, the airport looks almost surreal, a giant runway nestled between sheer rock walls. The first landing showed that this was more than just a flight. It proved that the impossible had become a reality. The wheels touched the road surface, and the aircraft decelerated safely. And for the first time in history, the airport in the middle of the canyon officially opened. The place that once consisted only of rocks, wind, and ravines has now become a gateway connecting people. But why build an airport in such a difficult location? For many isolated areas, such an airport could completely transform connectivity. It can shorten travel times from days to just hours, bringing commerce, tourism, and rescue to places that were once almost completely isolated from the world. Humans are able to adapt infrastructure to even the harshest terrains on Earth. An airport nestled in a canyon is more than just a runway. It's a story of daring, technology, precision, and a constant battle with nature. And when the first plane finally landed successfully, it marked a victory of engineering over seemingly insurmountable terrain. An airport in a canyon is more than just a runway nestled between rocks and a chasm. It's a story about boldness, technology, and precision. This transforms the airport nestled in the canyon into not just an infrastructure project, but a symbol of the adaptability of modern technology to harsh natural conditions. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey exploring the construction of the airport in the canyon, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow us to discover more incredible mega projects around the world.